performance.
Fitbit proudly sponsors Ninja Warrior UK.
Now, with all the very latest, it's the ITV Evening News.
On the eve of the Queen's historic state funeral, presidents, prime ministers, royalty from around the world and her people gather in London. Preparing to bury his mother, the King arrived at Buckingham Palace to applause this morning. And a poignant tribute from the late Queen's second son, the Duke of York, who says he will treasure forever his mother's love for a son. The queue to see the late Queen lying in state is still open, but people are told not to travel to join it. From the Mall to Windsor, as many as 1 million mourners could descend on the capital. Many are preparing to camp out overnight. And the Archbishop of Canterbury tells Julie of the Queen's final journey to lay beside her late beloved husband.
It's a profound moment of love for the two of them to be together. They will rest in peace and rise in glory.
This is ITV News with Rageh Omaar.
Good evening. In a little over 12 hours' time, Queen Elizabeth's public lying in state will come to an end. Then we will have to be ready for the first full state funeral this nation has held in nearly 6 decades, since the laying to rest of the first of the 15 prime ministers to serve the late Queen, Sir Winston Churchill. Historic is an overused word in our age, but tomorrow's events will be exactly that. Tonight at 8 o'clock, the nation will hold a minute's silence in remembrance. At Buckingham Palace, King Charles was in his new role as head of state, an audience with the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, and a reception for world leaders, including President Biden. Our correspondent, Emma Murphy, reports.
In life, the Queen was a global figure. In death, leaders from across the globe have travelled to pay their respects to her. She had pledged lifelong service, and she delivered on that pledge, commanding respect from those who know the weight of similar service. Later, after signing the official book of condolence, the President reflected on the Queen's contribution to the world.
All the people in the United Kingdom, our hearts go out to you, and you were fortunate to have had her for 70 years. We all were. The world's better for her. Thank you.
On the eve of what is likely to be the largest state funeral in British history, the weight of welcome falls to the new king.
The Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, Your Majesty.
From across the world, countries large and small, leaders have journeyed to offer their condolences for a woman who served longer than all of them.
It was wonderful of you to make the effort. And
the pleasure, it's my duty.
And so kind of you to ring me as well, so I was most touched by that.
It was you.
Tonight at Buckingham Palace, foreign royalty and foreign dignitaries are gathering to remember a woman who often inspired them and offer support to the family who must now honour her legacy.
I have been able to speak to Queen Consort Camilla, and tonight we're going to be seeing King Charles and Prince William. My heart goes out to them. It's a very difficult time. I know how much they loved her, deeply respected her, how much of a role model she was to all of them, and I think she has instilled in them the most important values of a deep sense of duty, of discipline, of service for the country. Every leader will leave his own mark, but I think the main principles are going to continue throughout the generations.
And from the family tonight, another expression of the loss they feel. The Duke of York issuing a statement saying, "Mummy, your love for a son, your compassion, your care, your confidence I will treasure forever. I have found your knowledge and wisdom infinite, with no boundary or containment. I will miss your insights, advice and humour." The feelings of the Queen Consort for the Queen have also been shared, recorded in the months before the Queen's death.
She's got those wonderful blue eyes. that when she smiles, you know, they light up her whole face. I'll always remember that smile. You know, that smile is unforgettable.
Unforgettable to the family and to many of those who feel she was also a part of their families. Emma Murphy, ITV News.
Members of the public are still joining the queue, hoping to file past the Queen's coffin at Westminster Hall before the lying in state ends at 06:30 tomorrow morning. This is the scene near the front of it right now. Numbers are finally beginning to diminish, with the waiting time now said to be down to about 10 hours. Inside Westminster Hall, mourners continue to file past Queen Elizabeth's coffin. As we heard, President Biden was here just over an hour ago. Well, Ben Chapman joins me now from the end of the queue. Ben, what's the mood there like this evening?
Well, in the last hour or so, we've watched as people have been literally sprinting down here to make it to the point at which people start their long walk along the south bank of the Thames, get their wristbands and join the line. What we've been told, though, in the last 20 minutes is that this is no longer the end point for the queue. That's moved about 25 minutes walk further upriver to Butler's Wharf Pier. The wait time, according to the Department of Culture, is said to be around 8 hours. We do expect the queue to close at some point later this evening. For people joining it now, they would arrive at Westminster Hall at about 2 o'clock in the morning. We know the lying in state must finish ahead of the Queen's funeral at 6:30, so there may be a couple of hours left for people to join the queue and take one of those last places. I've been speaking to some of those who've been coming down here to do just that and be one of the last to pay their respects in the early hours of the morning.
It's a very good question. It is a last minute. Wanted to be part of this, watching it all on news, talking to people. It just got to the point where you just feel you had to be here, be part of this massive historic moment.
We've had various commitments with the children over the weekend, so this is our last chance to go. We think it's very important.
So you have literally rushed down here to take your place.
There's a perspiration. It's not water. Yeah.
Why do you feel so strongly you want to be here?
Well, I mean, Majesty was a great royal. I thought I'd come pay respects to her, and it's one literally last time. If you don't do it today, you won't have another chance.
Well, people have been told now not to set off to join this queue because they may be disappointed if it closes before they get here. But there are clearly some people who are determined to take one of those last places to file past the coffin and pay their respects.
All right, Ben, thank you very much indeed in Southern Park. Now, it's believed around 1 million mourners are set to descend on London for tomorrow's state funeral. The prospect has prompted one of the UK's biggest ever transport operations. But as Chloe Keedy reports, some spectators have bagged their places already.
Along the Mall, beneath the lines of Union flags, there are now also rows of tents. On this makeshift campsite, there is a real sense of community amongst strangers, many of whom haven't slept properly for days.
2 nights outside, not a lot of sleep last night. I've had 10 or 15 minutes this morning.
Because I knew I was going to be in the queue, I brought lots of layers, comfy shoes, big coat.
Christina and Marjorie grew up on opposite sides of the world, but both with the same Queen.
Growing up in New Zealand, we used to go to Government House every time there was a royal and we would wave. And I was here for Charles and Diana's wedding and for Diana's funeral. And I always said I would come for the Queen.
Some have come to witness a moment in history. Others want to show their commitment to a Queen who never forgot hers.
I was a Girl Guide, I was a Scout leader, so I made my promise to the Queen and the country, so
you feel like this is your duty?
Yes, yes.
The Queen was such an icon, and I don't know, as a woman I just feel that's like personal, and I didn't realise how much I really cared about the Queen until she died, really.
Why is it that you want to be here for the Queen?
Because she reigned for over 70 years, and she's a very happy person.
This is just a fraction of the numbers that will be here tomorrow. Around 1 million people are expected to come and line the route as the Queen's coffin makes its final journey from Westminster to Windsor. And as it makes its way up Windsor's Long Walk, the Wilcox family will be amongst the thousands watching.
We didn't know we were going to stay the night, to be honest. It's a spontaneous decision.
It's going to be pretty chilly, absolutely. I've got a good team behind me who will be doing shifts and bringing me various things on this little endurance test.
It really is worth being here for the vision and to see and to witness, a piece of history.
Everyone has their own personal reason for being here, but most told me it is also quite simply the least they can do. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
The state funeral has been planned in precise detail. At exactly 10:44 a.m, the Queen's coffin will leave Westminster Hall. The King and his family will walk behind the state gun carriage to Westminster Abbey. There, the state funeral will finally begin at 11 a.m, an hour-long service attended by more than 2,000 people. And then at 12:15, the royal family will follow the gun carriage back towards Buckingham Palace and on to Wellington Arch. There at 1 p.m, the coffin will be moved to the state hearse and taken by road to Windsor, where it will be driven in procession along the Long Walk to St George's Chapel. The last public service in Queen Elizabeth's final journey, the committal service, begins there at 4 p.m. This will be followed at 7:30 by the very final act, a private family burial in the intimate surroundings of the King George's Chapel. Well, a security operation the like of which has never been seen before will also swing into action. Huge numbers of the public and an unprecedented concentration of world leaders presents a massive headache. Our security editor, Rohit Kachru, reports.
This is the biggest single plan in British policing history. And it's the oldest. Some of these arrangements were written decades ago. But on horseback and with high-tech tonight, they're being enacted across the nation's capital and beyond. We're inside the control room where a team of police officers will keep check for a range of threats or disruptions. A terror attack, a crowd surge, an unruly protest.
We have considered all the various elements we will need to. We've considered all those what-if contingencies, but we will have over 10,000 officers and staff on duty. We're expecting huge numbers of people to come to London.
There have been some changes to the arrangements. Plans to restrict air travel around London were scaled back at the last minute due to the disruption it would cause. But for those world leaders flying in, how will they make it to the service itself? Last night, the US leader arrived, but he'll avoid a plan to ferry heads of state to the ceremony, which 4 foreign diplomats have described to ITV News as undignified. President Biden will be driven here to Westminster Abbey tomorrow, but other leaders have been told that they'll have to catch a bus provided by the British government from a site in West London. It's infuriated many diplomats, and it shows that there's a challenge for organisers here in balancing security and diplomacy. Evidence of both tonight at a reception at Buckingham Palace. President Biden arrived in his armoured limousine, but dozens of other leaders packed onto a fleet of coaches. This is not only a funeral, but a huge diplomatic event, a moment in history for many reasons. Rohit Kachru, ITV News, Westminster Abbey.
Westminster Abbey was a place dear to Queen Elizabeth's heart. She was crowned there and married there. Tomorrow, her funeral will take place there. Julie Etchingham spoke to the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, who reflected on the events of the last few days.
Enabling people to grieve, enabling people to respond, responding to their response is such a privilege, I feel. And from my point of view, I think we all, and the Abbey as well, just want to do a really good job for the royal family.
You observed that the late Queen didn't fear death.
Yes. It was very clear that she accepted that she was near the end of her life and there was nothing to fear that she could make a joke about it.
How did she joke about it, Archbishop?
The one I think I can probably say was that after she opened the General Synod, the Parliament of the Church of England in 2015, everyone cheered and shouted, "Long live the Queen!" And we were going down the corridor back to her car after this, and she said, "Do you know, Archbishop, I think I've lived long enough, don't you?" and I said, "Well, ma'am, I think that I'm either going to sound obsequious or treasonous, whichever answer I give to that." So we had a little laugh about that, and on we went.
There will be many people in the country, Archbishop, whose lives are incredibly tough at the moment, for whom 10 days of focus on this clearly historic event will mean that attention has not been
on them. People haven't suddenly got more money because there's 10 days mourning. I have huge sympathy. Again, it comes out of the Queen's life. The way she keep in touch with people who were struggling and suffering, her deeply compassionate sense. Let's take that inspiration.
You will be accompanying the late Queen and her family right through to the very final moments of tomorrow. And we've learned that she will be buried alongside her late husband.
It's a profound moment of love for the two of them to be together, of confidence through their Christian faith, and they were both deeply faithful people, that they will rest in peace and rise in glory through the grace of Christ.
Archbishop of Canterbury, Archbishop Justin, we wish you all the best for your duties tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Archbishop of Canterbury speaking to Julie earlier. We're back just before 8 this evening when the country will come together for a national moment of reflection with a minute's silence to remember the Queen. Until then, from all of us on the programme, good night.